So our meat's been chilling in the fridge for a little while. I've pulled this out. I'm gonna form our meatballs. I'm gonna fry them up. I got the skillet going on medium heat here. 2 tablespoons of olive oil in here. These are gonna render some fat, so that'll allow it to brown and help it cook as well. We use a non-stick skillet here on set. Bare hands on this one. You can use a melon baller if you want to control the size. Not 100% necessary. It all comes down to your own personal preference and how uniform you want those meatballs to be. About that size I think is good enough. Right there. So that's what we have right there. The star of this show is going to be the Henry Bains, the Pendennis Club famous original Henry Bains. Now this sauce has a lot of history in the city of Louisville. Henry Bain was an actual person. He was the captain at the Pendennis Club. And we did a lot of research about Henry Bain. He was quite the entrepreneur, and he's actually buried just across the river in New Albany. We've been over there to do an offering with some of the smaller bottles for him. You know, this recipe is over 100 years old. I would say probably close to 150 years old. And it was designed to complement game. You can think back all that time. There are certain things that we might not even think about now, like how game meat tastes. And so there's some vinegar in here. You know, we make our own chutney. There's some chili paste in here as well. Most important ingredient, pickled walnuts and that malt vinegar that they're pickled in. Pickled walnuts aren't something that are very common in the US. And if you go around town and you see the other varieties, other brands of Henry Bains that are out there, make sure if you're not buying mine, you're at least buying one that uses pickled walnuts in it. We worked really hard to recreate this. And one of the most fascinating things I found was that pickled walnuts are yes, the most important ingredient in here, but Henry Bain actually used A1 in his sauce. It's older than Henry Bain's. When developing this, we were able to remove all of the preservatives and the high fructose corn syrup. And that was kind of hard to do with A1 because the way A1 is made now isn't the way it was made 150 years ago. So we buy a version of it that does not have the high fructose corn syrup in it. So we got the skillet on medium-high heat. We got our 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there. Formed the meatballs. Just gonna give them a little brown on as many sides as I can. They are balls, so they might roll around. Just, you know, I can hear them. A little help there. Just wanna brown them up. We're not gonna cook them all the way in this skillet. And so we're just cooking these long enough so that they brown quite a bit. We're gonna toss them in some Henry Bain sauce before we put them on a sheet pan and bake them. I wanna make sure they're cooked enough so that they don't break apart while I'm tossing them around. It's not gonna be a violent motion, but we're gonna be moving them. And if they're not cooked enough, they will have a tendency to break apart, and then you'll have like a Henry Bain's bolognese. All right, so we got our meatballs browned here. I'm gonna toss them in a little bit of Henry Bain's. So, got the heat turned off. I'm gonna put them in this bowl here. All right, skillet aside. The original Henry Bain's famous sauce. I'm just gonna do this. Reserve a little bit more for later. So now they're nice and evenly coated. I am going to just place them on this sheet pan. We're gonna finish them in a 350-degree oven. I love the malt vinegar that is in the Henry Bain's recipe. A little bit of spice from the chili paste. Sweetness from the chutney. I mean, this sauce has everything in it. So, spread out on our tray, beautiful, nice and even, uniform. I didn't plan to make an even amount of meatballs, but, you know, look at that. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 meatballs. All right, in the oven, 350 degrees. Meatballs are in the oven, 350 degrees. They're gonna be in there about 15 to 20 minutes, depending on the size of your meatball. If you're a little unsure if they're done or not, why don't you pull the largest one off the tray, put it on a cutting board, cut it in half, see if it's done. If it's done, the rest of them are done because they're a little bit smaller. If it's not quite done, leave them in there a little bit longer. Not gonna hurt anything. I wouldn't bake them more than 25 minutes though.